In the flickering glow of the shattered command vault aboard the ether throne, Princess-Queen Veyra pressed her back against the cold obsidian wall, her crystalline crown pulsing erratically as enemy drones hammered the hull outside. Her violet blood trickled from a gash on her temple, and her royal guards lay dead around her, betrayed from within. She had sworn never to take a human mate. Their fragile bodies, short lives, and chaotic emotions would only dilute the ancient starfire in her veins, leaving her empire vulnerable to the very collapse now closing in. But there he was, Captain Jax Kane, the scarred human pilot she'd kept as a guest for months, lunging through the smoke, his battered plasma rifle blazing. He tackled her to the floor just as a drone's energy lance scorched the air where her head had been, his warm, rough hands gripping her shoulders with desperate strength. "Get off me!" Veyra snarled, her telepathic voice cracking with terror and fury, shoving at his chest. "Your kind brings ruin. One bond and I lose everything, my power, my throne, my immortality." Jax didn't let go. His dark eyes, fierce and unafraid, locked onto hers as explosions rocked the vault and alarms screamed. Blood smeared his jaw, but he smiled, that reckless, infuriating human smile that had haunted her dreams. "Then lose it with me, your majesty. Because I'm not leaving you to die alone in this tin can. Not today. Not ever." His heartbeat thundered against her palm, raw and mortal, yet somehow steadier than her own immortal pulse. In that suspended second, with death seconds away, Veyra felt the ancient fear shatter like glass. Replaced by a terrifying, blazing need that surged through her starfire like wildfire. She pulled him closer, their lips crashing together in a kiss that tasted of blood, smoke, and forbidden stars. The vault doors buckled with a deafening screech of tortured metal, and the world erupted into chaos. Veyra's mind reeled as Jax's mouth moved against hers with bruising urgency, his calloused fingers tangling in the silver strands of her hair. For the first time in her 3 centuries of existence, the starfire within her, that eternal, crystalline flame passed down through queens of her lineage, didn't feel like a solitary burden. It flared wildly, reaching out toward the heat of his human soul, drawn like a dying star to a black hole. She could sense it now, the raw pulse of his life force, finite, chaotic, but fiercely alive. It terrified her. It thrilled her. A secondary explosion ripped through the adjacent corridor, sending a shower of sparks and debris cascading into the vault. Jax broke the kiss first, gasping, his forehead pressed to hers. "We have to move. Those traitors jammed the outer seals, drones are pouring in from the breach." His voice was gravelly, laced with pain from a wound she hadn't noticed before, a deep laceration across his ribs where shrapnel had torn through his tactical vest. Veyra's hands trembled as she touched the blood there, her royal telepathy instinctively probing his injuries. The feedback hit her like a plasma surge, his pain, sharp and human, mixed with an unyielding determination that made her chest tighten. "Why?" she whispered aloud this time, her voice a fragile echo in the din. "Why risk everything for a queen who saw you as nothing but a curiosity? A temporary amusement from a lesser species?" Jax hauled her to her feet, one arm wrapped around her waist as he fired his rifle one-handed at a drone skittering through the widening gap in the doors. The blast lit up the vault in harsh blue light, vaporizing the machine in a spray of molten circuits. "Because I saw you, Veyra. Not the crown. Not the Ice Queen who locked herself away in this floating palace. I saw the woman who stayed up 3 nights straight trying to save those refugees from the outer rings, even when your council called them expendable. You're not cold. You're scared. Scared of what it means to need someone who won't live forever." Another drone burst through, its red optical sensors locking onto them. Veyra reacted on instinct, thrusting her palm forward. Starfire erupted from her fingertips in a brilliant violet arc, slicing the drone in half mid-air. But the effort cost her. The crown on her head dimmed, and a wave of dizziness crashed over her. The betrayal had drained her reserves, her guards poisoned, her inner circle compromised by the rival house of Caliph, who sought to end the royal bloodline's isolationist ways by forcing alliances with more aggressive alien factions. Jax caught her as her knees buckled, pulling her behind a shattered console for cover. The vault was a tomb of flickering holograms and dying systems. Emergency lights strobed red across the bodies of her fallen protectors, their elegant silver armor now charred and useless. Outside the reinforced viewport, the ether throne listed in orbit around the fractured moon of Elisera, its once majestic spires venting atmosphere into the void. Enemy fighters swarmed like angry hornets, their weapons' fire painting the darkness in streaks of death. "You don't understand," Veyra breathed, her back against his chest as they huddled together. His warmth seeped through her royal gown, a thin barrier of star-woven silk that suddenly felt too delicate. "Bonding with a human, it would anchor me. Your mortality would tether my starfire to a single lifetime. No more centuries of rule. No more guiding the Empire through the galactic storms. I would age with you. Die with you." His arms tightened around her, protective, possessive in a way no courtier had ever dared. "Good. Maybe that's what your empire needs. A queen who remembers what it's like to have something to lose. Not this eternal Game of Thrones where everyone is disposable." He reloaded his rifle with swift, practiced motions, his breath hot against her ear. "I've got maybe 20 minutes of fight left in me, princess. But I'll spend every second making sure you get out of here." A squad of 3 drones breached the doors fully now, their hover engines whining as they fanned out. Jax shoved Veyra down and rolled, firing rapidly. One drone exploded in a fireball, but the second clipped his shoulder with a grazing shot. He grunted in agony, blood spraying across her gown. Veyra screamed, not the regal telepathic command, but a raw, emotional cry that echoed through the vault. The starfire inside her roared to life, fueled by something new, terror for him. Not for her empire, not for her legacy, but for this infuriating human who refused to abandon her. She rose like a vengeful goddess, the air around her shimmering with power. Violet flames danced along her arms as she unleashed a torrent of energy, engulfing the remaining drones in a storm of light. The feedback nearly knocked her unconscious, but Jax was there again, catching her, lowering her gently to the debris-strewn floor. His face hovered above hers, pale from blood loss, yet his eyes burned with intensity. "Stay with me," he murmured, pressing his hand to the wound on her temple. "Don't you dare fade out on me now. I didn't crawl through 5 decks of crawling enemies just to watch you die in my arms." Veyra's vision blurred, but she reached up, tracing the jagged scar that ran down his cheek, a souvenir from the war that had brought him to her ship as a captured pilot. She had interrogated him personally back then, drawn to the defiance in his gaze. Now that same defiance was saving her life. "I feel it," she confessed, her voice breaking. "The pull. It's like my starfire recognizes you. It wants to merge. But if I let it happen, there's no going back. The bond is permanent. Your years become mine. My power becomes shared. The Empire will see it as weakness." "Let them," Jax growled, his thumb brushing her lower lip. The alarms were deafening now, the vault's structural integrity at 15%. A massive tremor shook the floor as another hull breach occurred nearby. "Weakness? Loving someone who fights beside you isn't weakness. It's what kept me alive all these years, fighting for people worth dying for. You're worth it, Veyra. Every damn second." Tears, actual tears, something she hadn't shed since her ascension, slipped down her cheeks. The emotional intensity overwhelmed her carefully constructed barriers. She had spent lifetimes fearing this, the vulnerability of connection, the risk of diluting her divine right with mortal blood. Yet here, in the heart of destruction, Jax's presence felt like gravity itself, pulling her back from the abyss of isolation. "Show me," she whispered. "Show me how to let go." Jax didn't hesitate. He kissed her again, deeper this time, pouring every ounce of his fear, his desire, his love into it. Veyra opened herself fully. The starfire surged between them, a visible aurora of violet and gold intertwining. She felt his memories flood her mind. The loss of his family on a bombed-out colony world, the lonely years as a mercenary, the unexpected spark of hope when he first locked eyes with her in the interrogation chamber. In return, she shared her own, the crushing weight of the crown, the loneliness of immortality, the secret fear that her people no longer needed a queen who couldn't understand their fleeting lives. The bond snapped into place with a cosmic jolt. Pain and ecstasy blurred together. Veyra gasped as her extended lifespan condensed, no longer infinite but tied to his, perhaps another 60 or 70 years if they survived. But in its place came strength. Jax's resilience flowed into her, sharpening her senses, while her starfire healed his wounds, knitting flesh and bone with ethereal light. They were one now. Human and eternal. Mortal and divine. The vault doors finally gave way completely. A swarm of drones poured in, accompanied by the heavy footsteps of Caliph enforcers in stolen armor. "There she is," one shouted. "Kill the human filth and take the queen." Jax stood first, pulling Veyra up with him. They moved as one entity, back to back. His rifle sang in harmony with her starfire blasts. Together, they carved through the attackers. A drone's blade slashed toward Jax. Veyra deflected it with a shield of pure energy. An enforcer aimed at her heart. Jax took the shot for her, then retaliated with lethal precision. Blood and circuits littered the floor. Their breathing synchronized, hearts beating in rhythm. Sweat and blood mingled on their skin as they fought toward the emergency escape pod at the vault's rear. The ether throne groaned around them, its systems failing in cascades of fire and sparks. Veyra's crown, once a symbol of solitary power, now glowed with dual light, violet intertwined with the warm amber of Jax's spirit. "I was wrong," she admitted between blasts, her voice raw with emotion. "I feared you because you made me feel alive. Truly alive, not just eternal." Jax laughed, a wild, adrenaline-fueled sound amid the apocalypse. "Took you long enough, princess. Now let's get the hell out of here and show your empire what a real queen looks like." They reached the pod as the vault's ceiling began to collapse. Jax sealed the hatch behind them, slamming the launch controls. The small craft shuddered free from the dying ship, rocketing away from the ether throne just as its core detonated in a brilliant fireball. Through the viewport, they watched the Empire's greatest vessel break apart against the moon's gravity, taking their enemies with it. Inside the cramped pod, Veyra collapsed into Jax's arms, their bond humming with shared exhaustion and triumph. His hands roamed her back, gentle now, tracing the lines of her gown as if memorizing her. "We're going to have a lot of explaining to do," he said softly, pressing a kiss to her forehead. She looked up at him, her violet eyes no longer distant but filled with fierce love. "Let them question it. The Princess-Queen has taken her mate. And for the first time, I don't fear what comes next." As the escape pod streaked toward the nearest loyalist outpost, the stars outside seemed brighter, the future uncertain but no longer terrifying. In that single, unbroken moment of survival and surrender, everything had changed. The queen who feared humanity had found her everything in one man, and the universe would never be the same.